Hello and welcome. Another edition of Coach's Corner. Each and every Thursday, I take the time to speak with some college coaches, hoping that parents and student athletes can learn a little bit and gain a little insight from speaking and listening to the college coaches, hearing it directly from them as opposed to getting it through social media. Today, someone that I knew as a student athlete during his days as a college baseball player at Franklin Pierce, ultimately becoming a coach with stops at Franklin Pierce, Holy Cross, former head coach at Southern New Hampshire Division II NCAA powerhouse, recruiting coordinator at Penn State University, now the head coach at Dayton University for the Flyers, Scotty Loiseau. Scotty, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
No, thanks for having me.
I really am excited because I think this is going to be great for parents and athletes. You know, when Coach King was there at Dayton, you could see that he was really building a good program within the A10. I would love for you to talk your first year as a head coach, your first year in the conference. Talk a little bit about what makes Dayton University special, as well as the conference and the teams within the conference.
One of the things that was really attracting to me with the job, obviously, I'd been at Southern New Hampshire for 15 years, and it was a really good run there, and I was around a lot of really good people. And one of the things that Coach King had talked to me about when he had left and taken the job at Vandy and the job opened was how special the people around here were, and how genuine they were, and how much everyone wanted to help, and what the atmosphere was like. And for me, with four little kids and a mother-in-law and a wife, it was important to me that I was in a really good setting. It obviously was something that I'd had for a long time in my career, and I think that's part of the reason why. Um, Coach King was able to do such a good job here. I think the people here are incredible. It's a beautiful campus. It's a pretty good size. It's like 10,000, 12,000. Obviously, have elite basketball program here. Our men's soccer program played in the Sweet 16. I mean, the list goes on and on. The facilities are outstanding. Great education, affordable, in a good area. So, certainly very lucky to be here.
You know, within the A10, you're starting to talk about some schools that are, year in and year out, high level caliber of baseball. And I would love for you to share with parents and student athletes the challenges for the high school athlete to find their way onto college rosters. And I even talked to parents about the caliber of play within Division II, but now at the Division I level, what are some of the separating points when you're evaluating athletes, that you're looking for that tells you as a coach, this guy can definitely play at this level?
Yeah, so obviously, the first thing everyone can tell is whether or not a guy can play, right? Like that's obviously, your skill set's important. But for me, the most important thing, honestly, that I'm trying to find out with these guys is how competitive are they? And then quite frankly, how much do they actually really love baseball? Is it just something they do because they're good at it? Um, and they've done it their whole life, or do they actually love the game? Do they really like playing? Do they love being in a dugout with their teammates? Do they, if you think about baseball, it's very challenging, and it's challenging every day. It's an everyday game. You got to play every day. You got to practice every day, and you got to really have that type of passion for it. Because I really love baseball. I love being at the field. I love being around the guys, and you know, I think teams are the most successful when they have good connections. So, it's important to me that guys actually really like the game. So that's probably the most important thing that I'm thinking of when I'm watching guys play is how they handle the failure and how much they like playing. And obviously, we want talented kids that that can do as much as they can on a field and help a team win.
When you're out recruiting, and if you could give, like, say, those younger athletes, when I say younger, that freshman, sophomore, or young junior, what are some of the physical attributes that they can work towards or work on in order to get them prepared to be recruited at a school such as University of Dayton?
Yeah, so obviously the one of the biggest separators that I see right out of the gate is strength, or just overall strength, right? Your 22-year-old kid compared to your 18-year-old kid the players are physically much different. So it's important, I think, to try to try to shorten that curve if you can. Not everybody has the same resources or whatever, but and everyone is built different. And the one great thing about baseball is you don't have to be the fastest or the strongest to be a very good player. But I certainly think it helps. So I think that's the biggest separator that I've seen with some of the guys. So I think the more you can make it, having a good routine and taking care of your body and getting the rest and sleep you need and eating right and lifting, I think that's probably a really good, some really good habits to develop that you're going to need. I think, when you got to go to class, you got to go to lift in the morning, you got to do all those things. I think if there was any bit of advice, I mean, everyone's going to love to hit, everyone's going to love to throw, everyone's going to do those types of things, but creating really good daily habits focused around your nutrition and your health and your rest are probably one of the things that they could do early that would really make the biggest difference.
So I would love for you to expand on that point because what I try to get parents and athletes to understand when you're making that transition from high school, where you're kind of used to being in a classroom from 8 a.m. to say 2 p.m., and then you walk down to the ballpark, their routines are very, very different than a conventional college student athlete, particularly a Division I student athlete. So when you start talking about daily routines, daily disciplines, things of that nature, can you walk me through a typical time frame for you as a staff as well as your team? What time it begins? What does it look like in the fall as far as from when you get up to when you go to bed? What's all that look like in between?
Yeah, so these guys in the fall, obviously we're lifting like 4 days a week and we're practicing 6 days a week. We're trying to play on the weekends. So it is the fall. You find out fast how important the strength is for these young guys because you're trying to compete for jobs. You're trying to obviously impress your fellow teammates and the coaches and try to make a really good first impression. And the weight room obviously is going to be an important piece of what we're trying to do. Especially I think the weight room is super important in terms of staying healthy. And for me, the beginning of the season's whatever. I'm always trying to win the last game, and to have a team that doesn't do a good job in the weight room, it's hard to stay healthy and it's hard to win late in the year. So we're really trying to press, throughout the course of the year. And in the fall, it's a great time to try to put on some strength and some size and all that while you're practicing 6 days a week. Maybe the first time you're there in a college setting, going to class, getting up early, trying to find your meals in there. And you're going to wear down eventually and it will affect your game. And if you're lucky if that's it, right? Because the last thing you want to do is get hurt. So um, it's hard. It's a grind, when you first get there. There's a lot going on. You're meeting a lot of new people, and you got to go to class. You got to get up for lifts. You got to go to practice. You need to get extra work in. Like there is a daily grind, 6 days a week that you're gonna have to get through. And um, like I said, nobody can help a team, you know, if they're injured. So I think that's probably the most important piece of it.
So, in light of the new settlement and the NCAA and all the stuff going on, or what I call the white noise, talk a little bit about as a staff, your perspective with regard to the high school athlete. Are they still going to be a part of your recruiting classes? Are they less of a focal point now, or are they the same as always? It's business as usual at Dayton for your staff.
So for me, I can't speak for other universities or colleges. I know everyone's going to kind of do it a different way. But for me, I really appreciate the high school player. I really like getting them in. I want to try to create a good culture, have guys that come through the program. And I know that there's, in the way that the days are now, there's chances that, that could maybe potentially be a mistake and, I could get guys in, they could leave or whatever. But, one of my favorite things just as a coach is developing players and bringing them up and helping them get better and seeing them succeed. So that's an important part of this whole thing for me. So we are going to do a really good job with the high school kids, and we're going to be high school heavy and try to fill a couple spots you know to help make keep our team good. And obviously older teams win, so it may take a little bit longer. But this year we're playing almost all of our guys are freshmen. We're playing right now, and They're doing a great job, and they think about how much better they're going to be next year as they get older, and they've been through this process. And um, I think that makes a team. I think it can keep your relationships a lot better on the team and healthier. And I think being able to stay in one spot and do a great job and have success and see it through is something that is getting harder these days. But I do think there's way more value in that than there is in chasing the next thing.
One of the things that kind of ties into that, and I'm glad you brought this point up, is you have had a relationship with what I would call in your life, my opinion, a life mentor like Jay King. You went, you played for him, you coached under him, you coached against him. But there is something to be said going to a program and being there for 4 or 5 years and becoming a part of the fabric of that university, as a potential future alum. But talk a little bit about that because you've had, that long run with Franklin Pierce and then ultimately Southern New Hampshire, and now at Dayton. So parents, I think that is a point that I think a lot of parents will take genuinely to heart when they know that you are going to be there with and for their student athlete way beyond just the 4 or 5 years of college baseball.
Yeah, right. Again, it goes back to just kind of, what all this is supposed to be about, which is relationship
Correct.
building and helping guys. And I mean, I've been really fortunate in my career, spending 15 years at someone before all this started, and having Coach King, being able to play for him for 4 years and coach with him for 4 years and keep him in my life. I mean, he was in my wedding, and I mean, the amount of weddings I've been able to go to, and hopefully we'll still get to go to, and the amount of like players that have had kids that we get together and we got all our kids together, and just staying connected with people, and it's nice to have something that we all did together at some point in our lives that meant something to us, and it can be it can be a kid that just graduated in 2015 or a kid that I had that graduated in 2010, and but you're still connected somehow, and when you can get together, you laugh at all the dumb stuff you did, and some of the wins and some of the losses, and um but you maintain a network of people that care, and I think that that's the most important piece of this whole thing that sometimes can get missed. For me, that's the only reason to do it. When it stops being like that, then I'll do something else.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to, weave that into this conversation. And I think parents want to hear more than anything, they're being told constantly by recruiting services and outside, what I call the white noise of the outside world within youth sports. Parents want to know what type of metrics does it really take? And I'm not talking about heart, dedication, work
Yep.
ethic. I'm talking about the reality of Division 1 or high level Division 2. Let's start with the infielders. Obviously they have to be an elite fielder, but talk about some of the arm strength metrics, the foot speed metrics that are foundation pieces. You can't run a 7.4 and play short. So can you give
Yeah.
your infielders, your outfielders, your catchers, and your pitchers so that parents have a good idea as far as from a metric standpoint, what it really takes to play Division 1 athletics?
Yeah, so for the catchers, I obviously want guys to be able to, at the minimum, score from second base on a single. At the minimum, they need to be able to do that. So you're looking at the probably 7.2 or below range. If you got a big, strong kid that can hit the ball out of the park, everyone obviously wants guys to be elite throwers. But if you're a 2.0 on the bag and you're around 80 miles an hour, you've got a chance to, I think, probably play at the Division 1 level. Um, and there's all sorts of different styles of catchers that people can recruit. I personally like bigger guys, um, that are bigger targets that can get more pitches and are great targets to throw to. I'm a defensive first minded just coach in general. Um, so I like guys that can defend and run. The catcher position is one. I'd probably say in those metrics are if you're somewhere around there, you're definitely going to be able to play somewhere at the Division 1 level. Um, for the infielders, for me, I really I'm a little picky. I'm 6'7" minimum for me. I just unless you're playing first or you're playing at third, you can really bang. Like I really would like the middles to be in that range. Hopefully faster. Um, Got to be at least 85 and can spin the baseball across the diamond, carry it. Probably not going to be able to stay on the left side, you know, if you're around there. Outfield depends on how far you can hit it. I think in terms of like your speed and how consistently you can hit it far. But we again going back to like I'm more pitching and defensive minded because I do think that ultimately is going to win more games later in the year. But our center fielder, we're gonna really want him to be able to go get it. And our center fielder this year, he's probably like a 6'5" guy, but he's strong and can hit for power. And then, our right fielder, he's like a 6'4" guy. And our left fielder is probably like a 6'6" guy with some strength. So, those three guys, I think if you're, on a 6'8" or lower, you're probably in good shape as long as you can bang it. And obviously, you want all those guys to at least be 90-mile-an-hour arms or better. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
So that's exactly what I'm looking for because we don't talk about that enough as far as
Yeah.
foot, and it's overlooked. And parents are told, he's got a great arm and it's 81, 83, and it's a 7-1, and those guys probably won't get to the middle. And Division One is really elite athletes that are physically strong. But I want to get to this next point, which is execution, meaning it's all good in an environment in a cage. It's all good in an environment in a showcase. But when the bright lights come on, whether you're playing UMass or Rhode Island, this year you went down and played in Gainesville. At the end of the day, you have to execute. So there are no excuses when it comes to if you're called upon to put a bunt down, you're called upon to hit it and run, things of that nature. Talk a little bit about the focal point of development as far as being asked to execute even after you failed previously. The coach knows that you have to get between the lines. You have to have the ability to execute. Talk a little bit about that as a component to becoming a D1 caliber athlete or a college caliber athlete for that matter.
Yeah, I think right. Every sport has its own mental, challenges in terms of like, your failure rate slash success rate. And baseball is probably one of the hardest up there. And I think, you know, the training is super important. In my opinion, there needs to be when you're getting ready to play baseball, there needs to be a heavy mix of some stuff that's super challenging and you need to be okay with failing at it a little bit, but there also has to be some stuff that allows you to work and feel good too. You can't just constantly beat yourself down and then expect to have confidence when you get in the box. But at the same time, you can't just make everything easy and get in the box and it's too hard. So there needs to be a balance there in that training regimen, I think, to keep guys constantly tested and and at the same time feel like they're getting better and feel like they have the skills that they need to perform in a game. Because ultimately, like you said, when the game starts, you have to perform. It's one of those things. In baseball, you're not going to be great every day. So how do you actually? The best performers are the guys with the shortest memories. They're the guys that can last the longest and be really good, and then maybe not be the best, but then be really good again, and be able to handle the 56 game season, the 15, 16 weekends it is with the midweeks and the lifting and the classwork. And, so much of it is, being able to manage your emotions in a healthy way. So you can get the most out of yourself, but also push yourself.
One of the last two questions I have for you here is I hear a lot of parents talking about, my son throws strikes. He should be a college pitcher. Everybody's chasing velocity. Can you just share with parents, from your perspective, whether you're in an A10 environment, whether you're at home or on the road or playing in an SEC, the conventional pitcher at your level, even at Southern New Hampshire, the conventional weekend pitcher, give a little taste of what the metrics look like and in the strike zone. In other words, a lot of people don't have a good understanding that the strike zone in high school or travel ball is a lot bigger, and when you get to college, that shoebox, it gets really tight. But there are guys that are capable of shoving in the shoebox at 90 plus with ridiculous sliders and breaking
Yep.
balls and changeup. Just talk a little bit about the caliber of pitching that it takes and that you face week in and week out.
Yeah, and so that's a really good question. So, I mean, all the guys that are any good, um, before you start even talking about stuff, they can do everything before that. They can hold runners, they can field their position, um, they know how to make pitches when they need to with guys on base. They're tough. They're competitive, right? And then most of the guys that can do that, they have a chance to pitch on the weekends, right? Like if you can't do those things, you really can't. You really don't have a chance to pitch on the weekends. You're forced to a bullpen role because at some point, a good team is going to know how to expose you. So you have to be a complete pitcher first and have stuff. I mean, guys that are pitching on the weekend are anywhere from 90 to 93 or better and have at least one other pitch that they can get a swing and miss on, and the really good ones have two other pitches that they can throw for strikes in any count. I think that's one of the biggest things is being able to to pitch with your stuff in any count and keep guys off balance, because as hard as it is to hit, guys are getting so much better at it. The training ability we have as offensive coaches is so much better now than it was when I was a player. So these guys get to see really good stuff all the time, and they get to really have an understanding of the zone. And like you said, the zone does shrink when you get into college. So if you can't get a hitter out in the zone, then it's going to be harder for you to pitch at the Division I level, especially on the weekend. So.
Last question is, and I know Coach King is always a big fan. I know you have a couple of high school recruits, Mr. McNabb, going to a camp. He saw him. Talk about the final question, the value of the baseball camps at Dayton University for you and your staff to not only evaluate skill, but to get to know young athletes and how they react to you and the campus and so forth. Talk a little bit about your camps. How many do you have, and how do they play what role do they play with regard to recruiting?
Yeah, actually, the camps are great. Like the prospect camps we have, I really enjoy them because I love being around the kids and seeing all the kids. And obviously, we are using them to recruit. We've gotten 3 of our 26s out of our camps already, and the thing that is really nice about them is ultimately they are a long day, right? Like the kids get there, it's a long day, but you get to be around them all day. You get to have conversations with them. You also can coach them a little bit and find out like, okay, like what would the conversation be like if he was a player here? And at the same time for a player, okay, what would the conversations be like that we were having around the cage or on the mound? Or all right, can he make an adjustment? Like, or is he a quick learner? And at the same time, like kids flying around the field at 5 o'clock, and he got there at 8:30 in the morning. Like, okay, we got a guy that loves baseball here, and then you go out and watch him play, and it's like, okay, this kid's the same way around his teammates, and there's way more you can learn at a camp than you can just on a recruiting visit. And the recruiting visits are very important as well. But I think the camps are beneficial for a lot of different things. I think the kids get to see how the coaches interact with players, what their quote unquote coaching style might be, and then at the same time we get to find out you know how well we can interact with the players and what those might look like, because it should be fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Baseball is a fun sport. It's too much like a business for me these days, but that's just the way of the world. Scotty, I want to say best of luck the rest of the way. I know you're going to do great things at Dayton University and for the Flyers program. I encourage parents, if you are in the greater Ohio area, you're looking for a great academic institution and a great campus environment with a tremendous coaching staff. I can speak Coach Loiseau as a player, as a coach. He's all about one word, and that is effort. And he gives great effort as a player. He gave great effort as a player. He gives great effort as a coach. He gives you everything he has each and every day. And I think it's a tremendous environment. If you're a parent and you're looking at a program, whether it's engineering, whatever your academic area of interest is, you're going to be able to get a great degree at Dayton and be a part of a tremendous program at Dayton University. Scotty, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
That was awesome. Thank